Good morning, everybody. This is Kate Prokop here. We are going to try and go live right now via video with the candidate running for the 5th Congressional District, which is George Logan. George is doing really good right now, and I'm very excited to have him on this morning. I don't believe he's ever done a Facebook Live before, so just bear with us while we try to get him on. If he doesn't jump on to the Facebook Live, we'll do a phone interview. He was just on Fox News. It was a really good interview, so you can catch him there. Oh, I see him right now. So I'll go ahead and send him an invite. Perfect. Hoping that we can get him to pop on with the video here. If we can't get him on with the video, we'll go ahead and give him a phone call. Sometimes phone settings can be a little bit tricky. Unfortunately, I don't see it adding him. Little windows. Here we go. Let's give it 1 second. Again, thank you so much for your patience, for joining us. We are being joined by candidate for the 5th Congressional District, George Logan, and there he is. Good morning, George.
Good morning. Do you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfect. Thank you so much for cutting out some time this morning in your very busy Saturday schedule, less than 20 days before the election. Sure. How do you feel?
Oh, I'm feeling great. We're all fired up. It's momentum's going our way. And, we had a couple debates this week. I thought, we performed well. There's a sharp contrast between me and my opponent. And I think people are joining our movement more and more every day. So I'm very excited about it. I feel great about our chances. Just got to keep working hard and, pushing it home through November 8th. So, but no, I'm excited. The team's excited. Lawn signs are going up all over. People are joining, helping out with phone bank and volunteering to knock on doors. The reaction out in the community is great. Folks are just tired of what we're seeing from the Democrat leadership here in Connecticut and in Washington. So the restrictions that they just keep pounding on us is just hurting us in so many facets, right? And the biggest thing I hear, though, the most is the inflation issue, the affordability issue. That's the number one thing. But I'm also hearing as well in terms of education and parents, feeling boxed out of their children's education. That's also a big thing too. And obviously, I'm sure we'll be talking about, COVID-19, these the vaccines and these guidelines that are coming, from the federal government in many cases. Folks aren't having it in our district. I'm telling you, people want to have a choice, and so I am against, in terms of my stance, in terms of as a public servant, I'm against mandating that any child be forced to take a vaccine, mandating that parents don't have a say as to whether their child gets a vaccine or not, and adults for that matter. I think it should be a choice, and if a child is under the care of their obviously their parents, I think the parents need to make that decision, not the government. And I'll stand firm on that as well.
Well, just to introduce you to everybody that's here, we have a lot of people that have joined our group that aren't necessarily involved in politics, don't really understand the breakdown of politics.
Yes.
Again, I'm not even in your district, and I'm super excited for you to be running. So I just want to let everybody know, George is running for the 5th Congressional District, which is parts of Fairfield, Litchfield, New Haven, and Hartford counties. So if you live in those counties, you're going to see George's name on the ballot on November 8th if you go down to the polls. Anybody else, if you like what you hear, it's still really important to support George, because his votes will affect us all in this state. And we have absolutely no conservative representation. Nobody's speaking up for parents anywhere in the majority in Connecticut. So George, I also want to say, before we get into the interview, was somebody that our other board members worked with. And when we reach out to legislators, sometimes it's really hard to get a hold of you guys. It was never hard to get a hold of you. You were always there for parents, and this was way before, the last 2 years I'm talking about, way, way back. So, again, thank you so much for that. We're parents, we have jobs, we're not professional lobbyists. This isn't what we wanted to spend all of our time doing. So legislators like you make our lives easier. Let us live our lives. So thank you for that. Could you just explain to all our viewers, again, that aren't heavily involved in politics, the responsibilities of the 5th Congressional District seat?
Sure, sure. So, just in terms of the government structure, let's say, right? Like here in Connecticut, I was a state senator, right? I went to Hartford, and we have our representatives, right, from all throughout Connecticut that go to Hartford, and we worked on bills. At least my goal was to make things better for families in the district, right? And then the governor would approve or veto any bills that he didn't like, and they would become law. Well, on the federal level, we have a similar structure. It's just that instead of the towns being represented in Hartford, now all the states are represented in Washington. And so each state, right, has a different number of congressmen and women representing them in Washington, basically based on population. We've got 5, and right now all 5 of our in the House of Representatives, all 5, our entire delegation are all Democrats. So again, this is not about this discussion about Democrats and Republicans, but in terms of the entire congressional delegation being all Democrats, what does that mean? Well, the fact that they're Democrats isn't the issue. The fact is that they're all the same type of Democrat. They're all far left-leaning Democrats. They're not even moderates. And they're down in Washington representing all of us. And, most of us in Connecticut, in my opinion, particularly in the district that I'm looking to represent, the 5th Congressional District, 41 towns, are more moderate, but these guys are not, and they're going down to Washington. They're supporting the so-called progressive agenda, which is pulling the Biden-Harris administration, who's already pretty left-leaning to begin with, pulling it even further to the left. And what that means for moderate voters, and conservative voters, what it means is it means more bigger government, more restrictions on our freedoms and what we want to do. And, that's a problem. So I think part of the reason why my campaign, we're gaining so much steam is because, we need to have some better checks and balances in Washington. So thinking positively, when I win this race on November 8th with your help, and hopefully there may be some others, we have Mike France, J.D. Stevenson, and others that are running for these congressional seats, good candidates that will be able to be a voice for the moderate and conservative voters from Connecticut, be their voice down in Washington, and hopefully stave off, because if we continue to live by this one-party rule, Democrat one-party rule, they're going to continue with their efforts to, excessive spending, taxing us more, inflation is going to go higher, and then, they're kind of arrogant, they're going to continue to feel that they know better than you do in terms of how to raise your family, how to raise your children. They believe that big government is the solution to your happiness, right? And I think it's the opposite. I tell folks that I want to go to Washington to support the U.S. Constitution, right? Not the terror power. What I mean by that is the U.S. Constitution was created by our founding fathers, right, to protect us, like the people of the United States of America, our freedoms, our liberties. The U.S. Constitution was not created to protect the U.S. government. It wasn't created to make the U.S. government larger. And right now, the Democrat leadership, again, not all Democrats, I'm talking about the current leadership, they're more concerned with maintaining power than they are, really representing the needs and the issues that are important to the voters. That's why here in Connecticut, again, under one-party rule, liberal, Democrat, so-called progressive rule, we see our liberties and freedoms being infringed upon, and really for no reason. Like when I was in the state Senate, I was in the state Senate for 2 terms, 4 years, and we have the we had the religious exemption, right, for education for students, right? No problem. There was no problem. There was no issue, none whatsoever. We're going along fine. All of a sudden, we have too many liberal Democrats in Hartford. That was the only problem we had. Too many liberal Democrats in Hartford, and they decided that, you know what, we don't like this religious exemption. We don't like that certain kids are that their parents don't want to vaccinate their kids. Although there's no actual problem in the schools, there's no issue. They want to tell you what to do, and as much as we fought, right, we didn't have the numbers, right? And that is, it wasn't just Republicans. There were some Democrats as well that wanted to maintain the religious exemption provision in our state government, but we didn't have the numbers, and we lost, right? And so now we've got parents having to deal with this. You know, parents that have grave concerns about the the amount of vaccines. You know, for example, in this case, that their children are forced to look. When I was young, I'm 53 years old, right? Between 0 and 18 years old in the early 80s, you know, it was something like less than a dozen vaccines were required, right? Something like less than a dozen, right? Maybe even be less than that, right? Now it's like over 35, you know, 40 between
something.
0 and 18 years old.
Yeah,
you know?
something.
It's unbelievable.
Right.
Yes, it's unbelievable. And again, we're about choice, you know, and the current leadership is not about choice. We've got to replace these folks that are not really expressing. They're not really representing you. You know, whether it's in Hartford or in Washington. Now, my opponent, you know, she's voted 100% in line with Nancy Pelosi. So every single initiative that Nancy Pelosi's come up with, my opponent, the incumbent, has voted in line with her. You know, that's not representing the people of 5th Congressional District. You know, I want to be a voice. You mentioned, you know, my accessibility because, you know, in anything I've done in life, right? I'm an engineer, family man, you know, I even have a band, you know. I try to do whatever I do to the best of my ability, right? And to be in public service, you gotta talk to the people, you know. You've got to find out what's really on their mind. I try not to assume. You know, I don't think I'm smarter than any one of you that are you know on this Zoom call. You know, but others in public service, I don't know what it is with them. You know, they seem to think that they have the answers, right? I believe that I'm intelligent enough to listen and to understand and to solve problems, right, with stakeholders and whatever that issue is. And that's the way I've behaved as a state senator, and I plan on doing the same thing as a congressman. We need to go in a different direction here in Connecticut and in Washington, and this is a movement of people, of us. You know, I call it our campaign. It's not my campaign. It's our campaign. It's our message. You know, it's our desires. You know, this is what we want. And what is it? It's choice. You know, I'm not saying that people shouldn't vaccinate their kids, or adults shouldn't get vaccinated, COVID-19 vaccinations. If they want to. You know, the issue is choice. Stop taking away choice, especially when it doesn't really have there's no popular general health effect to it. COVID-19 vaccine, even if you get the COVID-19 vaccine, it doesn't really stop you from transmitting it to someone else. You know, well, what are we doing here? You know, so I like common sense. Solutions to problems. And I think right now the government is just going under current Democrat leadership is going in the wrong direction. Bigger government is not the solution. We need to bring more choices to the people. Local control of education. Parents should have more of a say in what their kids are being taught. You know, how they're being taught. When it comes to the issue of their actual health care, parents are top priority in my book in terms of how their children are dealt with in terms of their medical and health needs. Government can't do it. It's not possible.
So the CDC just recommended now that the COVID-19 vaccine be added to the nationally recommended childhood schedule. So our group is very worried that because of this progressive leadership, and again, we're not telling anybody to change their party here. We do have a lot of unaffiliated and Democrat voters in this group, and we support them, and we're not asking anybody to leave their party. It's just the party is not even Democrat. It's like these soloist progressives that just it's very dangerous for the Democratic Party, and they really need to fix their party and bring it more back to the middle, I think. And it would be great if those people could get to the polls and vote for people like George that are supporting choices, objectively. It's really important. But now that they're adding that, what are your feelings on the COVID-19 vaccine for K through 12 education as a requirement in Connecticut? We're really concerned about it here.
No, as I mentioned before, I don't think it should be a requirement. I don't think it should be mandated, forced upon all of our children, especially if it's against the wishes of their parents. again, am about choice. And there's no, at least from everything I've seen and read, I'm an engineer, right? I'm not a medical professional, but there is no, medical reason for forcing every single child to get this COVID-19 vaccine. So I think it should be left up to the parents, and that's where I stand on it. And I'll stand firm.
And what were your position on mask mandates?
I don't believe in mask mandates. Again, it should be optional. I have no issue if a parent or a child wants to wear a mask, a face mask, but I don't think there's no reason to mandate it and force it upon, especially a child. I think we way overdid it during the pandemic, especially when we're coming out of it, as far as the exceedingly long lockdowns. And I think the face mask mandate was hurtful to our children. It didn't really have as certainly not have the medical benefit that the government was touting. So no, I'm not in favor of mandating.
Okay. And then, oh no, we lost him. All right. Hopefully he'll jump on back. That was a great interview. Isn't he awesome? All right, hold on. He must have hit a button or something. Hopefully his phone didn't die. George Logan is an amazing candidate. Again, he's running for Congress for the 5th Congressional District, which is Fairfield, Litchfield, New Haven, and Hartfield counties. If you live in those counties, please go to the polls and support this man. He is one of the strongest candidates that is running in this election, and he's doing really, really well. So, again, if you live in those counties, support him. Even if you don't live in those counties, it's really important to support him. Like, I don't live in his county, but I made my profile picture, me and him, because I really support him, and I want as many people, as possible to know about him. Spread the word. Tell people, if you, again, live in Fairfield, Litchfield, New Haven, or Hartfield County, tell people about him, because not a lot of people, including myself, very honest, didn't understand, like, what does the 5th Congressional District do? It's our basically House of Representatives down in Washington, D.C. So they're all Democrats. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a Democrat. It's just that these people that are elected in Connecticut, they're no joke. They're not even Democrats. They're like these far left soloists that are serving themselves. And we really need to replace them with people that support choice objectively across the board and get back to like normal again. And that's how we do it. So again, please, if you're in these counties, support George. Again, the best way, to support him is to, he's jumping back on. Hold on one second. Hold on one second for me, guys. And yes, so this is a private Facebook group, so you can't share this video outside of the group, but invite people to this so that you can share this video with the people in those counties. Hi, George. I'm sorry that we lost you. I'm not sure what happened. But again, so you're very clear on your position on the COVID-19 vaccine mandates for K-12 education. You're very clear on the mask mandates. We did talk about the religious exemption a little bit, touched on it for school. Again, we lost our religious exemption last year for K-12 education. Families like mine were affected where 2 out of 3 of my kids could no longer get a religious exemption to go to school, right? So it's been very difficult for some families. Do you think that there's anything that could be done at the federal level to try to protect the religious exemption for school?
I think it's more of a state issue right here in terms of the immediate impact. So I think that's where it's so important. For example, we've got a gubernatorial race. You've got a choice. You got Governor Lamont or Bob Stefanowski. You got to decide which way you want to go. You just have to replace these folks who are voting the wrong way on these issues. It's incredibly important. Certainly at the federal level, I will do everything I can to help with the situation. But it really is more of a state issue, right? So it's got to be. Look, I would say for the mask mandate issue, the biggest thing that you can do is support Bob Stefanowski and get him in office, make him the governor of Connecticut. Because if you're dealing with Governor Lamont, you know what you're going to get. It's going to be more of the same. So even if you had success in the state Senate and the state House of Representatives right here in Connecticut, if the chief elected official in Connecticut is Ned Lamont, he's just going to veto all of that, and you're not going to have a change. So Lamont has to go if you want this religious exemption provision decision reversed.
I hope everybody.
So right now, I think that is the big.
Yeah, out and clear. That's really the message here. We're hoping to get Bob on here to talk to our membership too before the election. So you're obviously a very strong candidate. How are you appealing to moderate and independent voters?
No, yeah, absolutely. One, I tout my time in the state Senate, where I worked across the aisle to solve our common problems. I plan on doing the same thing in Washington. I have a track record for working across the aisle with folks. When I'm in mixed company, I don't, necessarily talk about Democrats, Republicans. I talk about moderate voters and conservative voters, right, who don't have a voice in Washington. There are moderate Democrats in Connecticut, right? There are lots of them. I think many moderate Democrats feel that the party is kind of, has kind of left them, and so we, candidates like me, we provide an alternative to that. Even in the state legislature, there are moderate Democrats. I'm not saying they don't exist, but the issue is that these liberal, so-called progressive Democrats have taken over, the leadership of the party, the Democrat Party here in Connecticut, and they're the ones who are pushing all of these, very left, leaning big government, laws, and regulations. So that is what we need to change. You need to support, moderate candidates, conservative candidates, and that's the best way to really get back to the freedoms and liberties that we all expect. You're not trying to tell people what to do. You're not telling other parents who want to vaccinate their kids not to do it. But for crying out loud, let you all have your choice, make your own decisions. That's what it's about. But there are some folks in public service who don't follow that philosophy. They don't believe in that philosophy. They believe that they know better than you. How to raise your family, how to raise your children, how to, as far as your child's health care. They want to cut you out of those decisions, and that is bad, real bad for our communities. It's bad for our state, and it's certainly bad for our nation. But I do believe that there is going to be quite a bit of change on November 8th. I think we're going to see many more moderate, candidates win on November 8th, and conservative candidates as well. And the question, though, is it going to be enough? So again, when it comes to Connecticut, and it comes to what I'm hearing is the priority of your group, it's Ned Lamont and Bob Stefanowski. If Ned Lamont remains governor, it's just going to be that much harder to reverse some of the damage that Ned Lamont has caused. Right? He could have vetoed when the legislature sent them that bill to eliminate the religious exemption, right, for students, and children. Yeah, and so what, he wholeheartedly believes that. So there's been no indication that he would change his mind, even if we had to somehow gain enough moderate legislators in the House and the Senate. He most likely would not reverse that decision. So you got to do what you can to get him out of there. I mean, it's always possible to override a governor's veto, right? But you need a supermajority for that. So it should just be easier that right now, between now and November 8th, you have plenty of time to do everything you can to get Bob Stefanowski in and Governor Lamont out.
Right. Let him know. Everybody's got to let everybody know, guys. And, we're trying to get Bob on here again to talk to our membership. He's come out very strong opposed to these mandates, for COVID-19 vaccine. But getting back to you, how can our membership support you, now until the race? What do you need support with?
Right. I mean, look, number one is certainly the fundraising. I'll just say that, right? Because I'm doing everything I can to keep my message on the air. I don't know if you've seen any of my TV commercials. I have one with me in a box, and another one with my mom in the commercial, right? And the opposition is pouring in money to make me look bad, right? And to because they can't support their record, right? So they just come in and they attack me. So my website is georgeloganforcongress.com. One, you can certainly donate to the campaign. Every bit helps. But two, we are looking to have a good ground game, right? We need folks that are going to do phone banking. We need folks that are going to knock on doors on election day. We need folks that are going to, go to the polling locations, go to polling locations for us and wave signs. My email address is info@georgeloganforcongress.com. Info@georgeloganforcongress.com. send us an email. If you're in the district, you want a lawn sign, send an email. If you want to do phone banking. And phone banking, the way it's set up now, you could do phone banking for the campaign from the luxury of your home. You don't necessarily have to come to the headquarters. We'll provide some training. Everything's on an app these days. And I'm telling you, phone banking, making calls for the campaign is hugely effective. And so the more folks we have, the opposition's doing their own phone banking, we need to do our own. It's a bit of a chess game in terms of how that goes. So that'd be very helpful as well. And again, if you want to knock on doors, if you want to help us put literature on doors, that would be helpful as well. But again, there are many ways to help the campaign in addition to any monetary solution. So if you don't have the means to give to the campaign, again, helping out those other ways is just as important, because we need to have a better ground game than my opponent. One thing, my opponent has probably twice as much money as we do, right? We don't need to spend more than they do. We just need to have enough to get our message out. And our ground game, we control how hard we work for this campaign. And right now, I've got a great team of folks. I'm telling you, if you join my volunteer team, you will have a good experience, and it's an exciting campaign. We get all kinds of national attention, and we are running a campaign the right way. Yeah. We're disciplined, yeah. We're excited. Yes, we're working hard, and it's a good experience. So, whether it's you or if you have children that are, in the upper, teenage years, and want to experience what it's like to be on a winning campaign, come on board. If if you got nieces or nephews or friends, or you yourself want to help out, it's a team effort, and look, I want to win this seat, and I'm going to do everything possible to make you all as proud as I can when I'm down in Washington. And, I give everybody my personal cell phone. And that number is not going to change after November 8th. I will continue to be as accessible to you as I was when I was a state senator. So I'm looking forward to representing everybody down in Washington.
Thank you so much, George, for taking the time, this morning to be completely transparent with our membership. We're really excited to support you. I'll go ahead and put all your contact information. Again, it's georgeloganforcongress.com, and I'll put his email in the description of this video so you can reach out to him and get involved in this campaign. Great idea. Like, if you have a teenage kid that wants to get involved with a winning campaign, really excited. He's on the news all the time. He's doing great. They're like, neck and neck. I think he's got it in the bag, but,
Thank you for that.
Keep playing it like you don't, though. But it's great to